Special producers episode focused on sound engineers, producers, beat makers. So if you make beats, if you produce music, this episode is for you. What are 3 things that a producer can do to get started?
You need a laptop, you need a DAW.
Work with passion.
Yes.
3, figure out your finances. Number 4, have a great routine. And number 5, welcome to the Unfiltered Podcast. I'm your host, Raf, and this is my co-host, SAHEER.
What up, bro?
What's good, bro? Happy to have you here. Episode 7.
Yep.
How are you feeling today?
Man, I'm good, bro. This is an exciting one.
Yes.
This is something I'm been looking forward to for like a few days now.
That's
now
awesome.
that I got my chance to, prep a little. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, for the audience today, what SAHEER is excited about is today's episode is a special producers episode focused on sound engineers, producers, beat makers. So if you make beats, if you produce music, this episode is for you. And the reason why we're doing this today is because SAHEER is an expert at sound engineering and production and the whole, thing, because he went to school for this. And he went through trial and error and learned so many things over the past 15 years, 20 years. I don't know how long it's been. Yeah, it's been a long time. So you know what? I just really want to start this episode by adding as much value as possible for our audience.
Of course.
So I want to pose a good question to you right from the start.
Okay.
Is you're in your 30s now, right? But 15 years ago, SAHEER was working on production, working on trying to figure this thing out. What are some key pieces of advice that you would give yourself 15 years ago?
So, all right, 15 years ago, I just want to make sure I get the math right. So, I'm 32 right now. So, what is that, 15 years ago? 17?
Yeah, you were in your teens.
So,
yeah.
17, so it's important to note that, 17, that means I started actually, making music, my own music, around 13, so that's 4 years. Around 4 years, I've been in front of my computer, trying to figure out how to make music. And so by the time 17, 18 comes around, at that point in time, it is very critical, very pivotal. There's a moment in your life there where if you don't know exactly what you need to really manifest what you're trying to do with your life, which at that point I think in my heart I wanted to be within music, some capacity, because I was making all of my own stuff from the ground up, meaning I made my own beats, I recorded myself, I recorded my cousins, and I mixed whatever that was. I did that all myself. So I understood that there were exciting bits to every part of the process. So by 17, 18, I knew I wanted to be here, in a creative aspect, whether it's writing the song, whether it's making the track better, whatever it is.
Right.
So at that point, man, I think if there were certain, at that stage, what would I say?
Let's say that was a stage where you're in your beginning stages, right?
So can I okay, this is going to be very specific to my journey, just just making that very clear. So there's no real right or wrong way to go about, production and the creative and the artist path, that's yours, and you should go very much off of gut, in my opinion. But at that point, the hype was around UCs, going to a UC. And that's for the University of California. It was the public college, right? So there was a noticeable I guess conversation amongst all of the parents, that they should get their 4-year experience and they should do that, right at 18, get them out of the house. It's not totally untethered, but at least you're not in the house. And so I remember my mom really pushing for that, and also my dad, he of course he just wanted me to be educated, so we're going to school, not for music, not for anything that I actually loved or anything like that, but to get a career, or to have a prospect in a career. So at that point, I think I would have told myself, hang on, what do you want to do with your life? What's within you? Because I think one of the cornerstones of this journey is passion. It's sincere, honest, like genuine love for the creative aspect.
Right.
It's not something that can be faked, not for a long time, I don't think. And I think that's the fuel that keeps you going.
Yeah.
I think if you're at that point, at that stage, you can identify that you are getting a strange level of satisfaction, not from showing it to others, like not to celebrate what I did or anything like that, but just that relationship of creation, that this between me and, at that point it's computers, like between me and the screen here, that's something I created. If you love that side, I think you should do more research, how to apply that and get paid from it. And at that junction in my life, I fell more into the hype of going to a UC versus doing my research as to what I needed to do to create a sustainable career off of what I really loved. So I think that's something I would have told myself, frankly.
Step one, do a bunch of research on the career that you want to get into.
If you have a passion for something early on.
Right. Yeah.
I know that
I'm thinking that the audience listening to us, they have that passion. That's why they clicked on this video.
Right.
So like,
I'm hoping like I also recognize it's a blessing. It's not something to take for granted.
Right.
Because a lot of folks they take their early 20s, not early 30s, maybe into their 50s to really find something that they love and like they are satisfied with, and that now maybe they're willing to make the move to pay their bills off of what they love.
Right.
And I think there's a strange level of satisfaction and responsibility that comes together when you do that, when you chase what you love and you try to put a roof over your head with that. So I think if people have that, they should do more research about real world applications. Where can I start? Where can I go? And at that point, at 18, I might have taken the course that I took at 25. So that's 7 years, where I got a whole bunch of different experience in life, which I'm not, regretful of at all in any way, shape, or form. I'm really appreciative of the journey that I took and the time that I took to get better and the phases of life that, I got to like make music through.
Right.
But I think I would have told my 18-year-old self that, like, hang on, what do you love? How can we apply this?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
It makes sense, and it applies to everyone at any age, just because just like you said, like a 30-year-old who loves music production should also heed this advice and like start that research process to see how other producers are making a lot of money.
Yeah, and I think, and even if not a lot of money, I think a way to grow your network, to like meet new people and like-minded people, and like to further your own passion. I think folks have all different types of balances in their life, and I had a unique experience, like a lot of different things around me that allowed me to continue making music and never stop that part, like no matter whether I had a job or not, like I was always making music. And I don't take that lightly. That's something I want to point out, that like everybody's blessed in their own ways, and like everybody has their advantages. And so mine are specific to my journey. And I think there are certain things that I think everybody can take, but then there are other things that if you ask me, off mic, like I'll be happy to, be honest about. And like to be like, if it weren't for this, that, and the third, I don't think I'd be here this way. So yeah, there's a level of destiny with personal effort that I think is prevalent in my journey here.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's a great one. What else would you say to yourself?
Yeah, man, I don't think I would have said too much else. Like, I'm really happy, about like what I've been able to do, and like what the world has allowed for me. And just because I love making music, I think a lot of things just fell into place. And that's not something I can really explain. Like, that's like a lot of, a lot of
serendipity.
Yeah, serendipity. I think you can attest to that, man. Like, there's a lot of things that have happened in your life that it's like, if it kind of just did come into your plate, like, and I don't like to say that it's a handout, but I do believe that opportunities are given. Now, whether you're ready for that or not, I mean, you'll only know if you try. Right. And so, I think
the universe, I believe, works in amazing ways and beautiful ways. Like, you know, to me, like I believe in God, you know, so to me it's God, you know, has a plan for everything.
Right.
But for many people who aren't in that same wavelength, you know, the universe has a plan.
It does.
You know, that's the truth. Because like I've seen that in my life over and over again, where it was like where I thought something might have been a bad thing, a bad situation, turned out to be a blessing in disguise, and
Right.
I wouldn't have known ever unless like I went through it and then gotten to the other side and then looked back in hindsight. It's like, holy that was really nice, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just God's plan, you know. It just happens,
Right.
you
And
know?
you tried. It's important that you gave it a try, and you didn't shy away from something that might have been new or unfamiliar.
Yeah.
And you allowed yourself to fail, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, and like those are things that like I think I would have maybe reiterated to myself at that age, you know, at 18,
Right.
that like your failures are not going to define. And you know what, like I just never had that mentality. I might have, you can call it arrogance if you want, or maybe my passion for what I did and the way that I went about it outshined the actual product. Because right now, man, like if I pull up those mixtapes that I made in 2008, you know, my very first one, it was called Instinct. It was at UCR. It was with TJ, my cousin Sona, and then there was Mansi, and then there was my cousin Rishi. Like we were all together, we were all working together. We made 19 tracks.
Wow.
And I think I spent like 10% of the effort that I spent now in mixing. So I could, it'd be 19 songs, you know, and like maybe like 15 of those, maybe 12 of those, something like that, were my beats. So I was like really like going for it. And I didn't care to ask anybody if this sounded good or not. I just made sure that the people that I made it with liked whatever it was. And for you know, bless them, like they did. They kept encouraging me.
Right.
So like I didn't really start to look inward until much later, until you're like, you know, put onto the actual process.
Right.
And then you're like, oh wow, we really have come a long way off of passion alone.
Right.
You know, just doing what we love and being infectious that way, like around other folks. So.
Yeah, I love that, because like I believe that like if you follow your passions, if you like have an instinct about a gut feeling about something that you want to do, and you do it passionately, the universe will make space for you.
Yeah.
You know, like it'll just appear, and there'll be space for you, even when you feel like there's no space for you. Even you feel like it's saturated. I don't know if I should enter this game, but you should, because the universe will make space for you.
Yeah, no.
Especially if you're passionate about it.
Yeah, there's so many people in this world. Yachty said that on that interview with Drake. I think he said it on that one, but like he was commenting on like how there are so many people in this world. Like there are so many folks who are just, they're on the ground, you know. And like if you started to reach out that way, you start to realize that like there are a lot of people.
Yeah,
there's so many people.
Yeah,
out
there's
there.
an audience for everything.
It
Like,
really is.
If you like something, there's an audience for it, you know. And that's what I tell entrepreneurs all the time. Like, you know, people come up to me with ideas like for business. Is like, is this a good idea? Is that a good idea? The answer is, yeah, these are good ideas. If you execute them well, like anything can work, because there's an audience for everything, you know. And like, look at YouTube. Like there's an audience for everything. They're like YouTubers talking about things that I don't even understand. And it's like, what are they talking about? But they have all these comments, and it's like, whoa, people are really feeling this.
People are curious. Yeah.
There's a niche with this guy, you know, or
For
you know,
everything.
this is a thing for everything, you know.
And I think that's what a lot of like creatives like just don't do more, and that's me included very much. It's just get myself out there, like do whatever I can to get out there. And like in the beginning stages, like that was all I was doing, was like just trying to get out there, like by any means, and didn't care about the quality. And maybe we were at a time, man, I was still pressing up CDs. There was no streaming. Like the Instagram hadn't barely came along. Maybe we were still on Facebook right at that time. Like I think 2008 was very much like just Facebook dominant. And like at that stage, like you didn't have very many ways to get your music to a lot of people. So if you were doing it because you really loved it. We were pressing up CDs, you know. We were still like, I bought 100, and I was at my friend's apartment. It was a party, you know, like everybody was drinking. Like, it was great. It was a lot of fun. But in the back room, we were pressing up these CDs while the party was going on, and playing music off of it and stuff. And like, you know, there's like, you're right. Like when you're genuinely chasing something like that, when you're pursuing like that satisfaction, that inner satisfaction that you get, the universe makes a way around it, and you find people around you that like support you, and they love what you do, and then you just get better, like as you like just naturally go around. So if you look at it like for folks who have been following since those early high rise days, like it went from 19 to 17 to 15, and then it went to
like songs in a mixtape,
and then it went from 15 to 7. You know?
Yeah.
And so because like you start to really understand what it takes, and you're now trying to really compete, and you're trying to also like inspire yourself as you move along. You're not I was never that guy. Also, was like I was never okay with just like where I was. I knew that there was more to go. I knew I had more inside me to like, and I think a lot of that, you know, getting out there first, the universe making a way, it's actually helping you get the mediocrity out. You know, like especially for folks like me who don't have like a musical family, like we don't come from that like background. In terms of actual execution, we come from appreciation very much, but we don't come from like creation and execution. So you're learning everything on the fly, man, and like you realize like how much there is as you keep trying.
True.
And then you're trying to wow yourself first and foremost. So then you realize like, oh, this is taking a lot more now to wow me, you know. And then like you start to realize, oh, this is why they take 1.5 years to make an album, because like exactly these are folks that have done it for a while. So sorry,
that makes sense. So what do you think, you know, what are 3 things that a producer can do to get started? Like if you know, if there's a 15-year-old kid who loves, you know, beats, who loves trying to make some of them, and they're, you know, coming out okay, what are 3 things that he can do to like really begin as a producer?
That's okay. So top 3 in my mind, first is having the bare minimum equipment to create.
Okay.
So at this stage, at this day and age, even, and I'm talking like back in the day, right? So that's like 2007, 2008, right?
Think about
even before like that, right? Like, so this holds true is that you need a laptop and you need a DAW. So whatever laptop that is, whatever DAW you can get your hands on, familiarize yourself with that bare minimum process that it is right now, that you can program music. Sorry, go ahead.
What are a couple of DAWs that they can you know, get from the internet?
I know that that Fruity Loops, Ableton, and so Fruity Loops and Ableton, I believe, work on PC. And I know that PCs are cheaper machines. Right. So again, like you don't want to like go crazy with the overhead in the beginning. Now again, I was lucky to have very supportive parents who also worked very hard, and they noticed. I think I mentioned this in the past episode, that my cousin had that iMac, you know, the desktop one that I'll go over to his house for. I told them that like this is it, like, and this is something that's really important about Logic, which is another DAW, is that it comes from GarageBand, which is a stock Mac thing, and Mac machines have just always been priced higher. For whatever it is, they just always have a higher price point. So if I didn't have my mom, if I didn't have my dad, I would not have had that laptop.
You'd go towards Fruity Loops.
Yeah, 100%. I think I would be at Fruity Loops, or I'd be at Ableton or Pro Tools. Like Pro Tools is the industry standard. That's the one that if you're really gonna start and you're really serious about it, I would say master that. Get that down, because then you can navigate all these other ones. All of them.
That's a great little piece of tip, because start with Pro Tools, and then the rest of it will just fall into place.
100%.
Start with the best, and then we'll figure out the rest.
I would say, okay, real quick, I don't know about best. I would say the one that's the most prevalent. So that translates.
That makes it the best.
So that's no. I'm not gonna.
I'm gonna say like.
I'm not gonna say that Pro Tools is better than Logic. 100%.
Sure.
In my eyes, and not even just because like I like and I grew up with Logic, or that I have a comfortability. I recognize that bias. But also, objectively, Pro Tools is not a user-friendly software. It's very finicky. It has its quips and pro quos or whatever. And now that it's on a subscription-based model, things are different, you know? So there is this advantage with Logic that you are working with, Apple's $1 trillion company now, right? I think the audio processing arm is just one part of their business. But they dedicate great resources to that. And so I can say with that privilege that, yeah, Logic is way better than Pro Tools. But in terms of getting started, and if you're really gonna like want to get out there easier, I would say learn Pro Tools or have access to Pro Tools. Again, like that Pro Tools comes with that little iLock. You know about iLock? Like, why? Like, what is this? Like, if you don't have that little USB thing, you have to have an internet connection to like have the iCloud iLock. It's just so inconvenient. Really inconvenient, and something that like just bugs me about like how certain, you know, companies like, you know, like have those stipulations, whereas these other DAWs that we mentioned, they can all work offline. So there is that little bit over there where like, so yeah, man, I think like that, having a DAW, having I would say passion, number 2, like just having that drive to actually create this stuff, and I would say that the third thing for any beginner, we can talk about budget, you know, we can talk about setting aside some kind of income. I don't, you know, you can even whatever birthday money you get, you know, like little bits, like learn how to do that part. Because as you grow with this, as you progress, yeah, unfortunately, some of these things are like just a plug-in away. Like if you just had that plug-in, you would have that thing smacking. So yeah, so I would say, yeah, those 3 things to me
so the 3 things would be: get a laptop with a DAW, work with passion, 3, figure out your finances so you can save on a weekly, monthly basis, something like maybe a side hustle, maybe a job, maybe like a work at a, you know, gas station or something, anything, Target, but just save up some dough, because
learn how to do that part.
Learn
it's very important.
Like learn how to finance. So that's gonna be a whole other episode, obviously, because finances are difficult for anyone. You know?
Absolutely.
I guess to this I would add that number 4, have a great routine. Create a routine for your work. And we'll go into it a little more deeper here. But I just want to say it. Have a great routine. And number 5, I would say in today's age, start your social media accounts. You know, get your name, you know, and your social media tag and all that. Just start that. You know, even if you think like I suck, doesn't matter. Just start the social media. It doesn't matter. I've seen so many Instagram, you know, guys on Instagram who hit me up, DM, like, hey, you know, check out my beats, bro. You know, they're whack beats. They're not good at all. They're like screen records of like the audio that they're playing. You know what I'm saying?
In the room,
it's not good at all. You know what I mean? But but they got the social, you know, and they're hitting me up and hitting other people up, obviously.
Getting out there.
Getting out there. They're doing a good job at that. And that's good. You know, day 1 it's gonna suck. You know, maybe at the end of year 1 it'll still be lame. But end of year 5, with the social media account that's been running for 5 years, making beats and posting it, holy shit,
that's strong.
You know what I'm saying?
I would be hard pressed to think that you suck at year 5. I think you'd be a monster.
Exactly, you'd be a monster, and your social media would be popping. Because like you've been working on it for 5 fucking years.
I think that's
one of the biggest problems that people have is like, oh, I'm not good enough, so I ain't gonna do it yet, and so they don't do it, and then they start on year 3 where they're already good, but now they have to. I gotta figure out social media. Bro.
Exactly. That's me. 100%.
I gotta figure all this shit out. No, like if you had started already, you wouldn't have to figure none of this out.
Thank you. Yeah, bro. Social media is very important now. Like, and I mean, it's been that way for like since like 13, 15, right? I would say like that's really like when Instagram was Instagramming. But I remember just knowing that getting out there and like documenting that progress and sharing that progress with people on a daily basis, that would 100% create a loyal fan base, which is I think what we're seeing. Like a lot of the folks that are at the top tier, you know, at the highest levels of the game, they created a very loyal fan base from the beginning, and they, one way or another, you know, like they documented, I think, and they shared, and they utilized whatever they could. Like, and I come from an era where we weren't as social media crazy. I come from an era where you really did have to be on the ground. We were doing a lot of shows in college, so like I was going to different clubs all around like SoCal with my DJ, shout out DJ Doughboy, like actually like, you know, getting out in front of people. And at that point I had a domain, you know, and if people wanted to get in contact with me, yeah, it was emailing me. But like it didn't look that great to have a Facebook profile where people were going. Like Instagram became a little bit more hip, you know.
Cool.
It became a little bit more streamlined, and then you could really share things easily, you know. And I think what you're saying is like so important now. So if you're getting started now, yeah, social
Definitely
media. Just get that muscle like the same as your creative muscle.
Right.
And then just get that nervousness, that uncertainty out of the way in the beginning. The same way you would for your creativity.
Right.
And if you do all that, oh my God.
Yeah.
You'll be unstoppable. And like I would just give it like 2 to 3 years. If you just did that, I would think your results, how quickly you would grow, because you would create like a community that people will point out to you, hey, try this snare, or you know, that reverb, or like something, you know, like, and you just continuously grow at a hyper speed if you know, put yourself out there genuinely, because there's a community out there.
Right.
And that's what you want to like really want to focus on, is like somehow creating a community around you within a community. I think that's what social media allows for.
Yeah.
Like really easily.
I agree. Yeah, man. Like I started my first, brands just built off of social media. Like my first music brand was when I was like 17, and it was a online forum, much like Reddit. But it was built off of Facebook. Like Facebook is where I advertised it. Facebook is where I posted about it.
Sure.
And it gathered people, artists, musicians, producers, all in one place. And that's how we built things off of,
those
you know?
pages. I remember that. Was that what it, did you have that? Or
I had a website, and I had like a social media thing going, like a page, a group, you know?
Okay, so it wasn't your personal profile.
No, it wasn't my personal, but it was a brand.
So see, that's something, again, I came on to later,
Yeah.
which was like, Facebook offers like these pages where like you can have people like your band, you know, or like your label or whatever you have going for yourself.
Yeah.
Aside from your profile.
Right.
And
exactly.
that's really great to like now you amass people at the platform for a certain reason.
Right. And I would say like that's the first thing that any artist and musician and producer, sound engineer should do first, is start their social media platforms, you know. And I have experience in social media marketing since 2007, 8, you know. A lot of it was trial and error, and then I did it professionally after that. And I would say to the audience, like in today's age, start with Instagram and then do a TikTok. TikTok is slowly going away. I think there's a lot of government situations, and there might be bans in the near future.
Yeah, that's a little murky.
Yeah, but regardless of that, still start a TikTok, and then the vertical videos that you make on TikTok, take it to YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels. Just post the same things vertically on Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. And I think that should be the beginning. I would say Facebook is getting a little much for the older people. So if you don't want to do Facebook, fuck it, don't worry about it. But do the TikTok. Do Instagram first, YouTube second, TikTok third, and then try to go with that.
So if I could offer just one other look at it too, because what you're on is the social media platforms that have communities within them, and you kind of find your tribe there, you know, and that's great, that's awesome. But I think, like you said, like with TikTok, you don't know if it's uncertain or not. I know that Instagram's algorithm is pretty blah. Like my newsfeed is, I don't know what that is. And even like the explore page, like there might be like a couple things that they get right, but then after that it's like I feel like I'm not getting like people that I actually want to see. Sure. Twitter's algorithm, I don't even know what's happening with Twitter, man. Like, are you on Twitter like that? Because like the For You, and then there's the following tab. Even in the following tab, I'm getting things that I don't follow. So there's like, what I have been also a part of is the move to have your own website. Right. And to have your own space that's outside of, or seemingly outside of, the social media space. That where if you put up things there, you can maybe start a newsletter, actually have real engagement with individuals. Right. Build up a catalog that way. Somewhere outside of social media where I guess it's a little bit more straightforward. Yeah. In that, like, who's hitting my page? Yeah. Who are actually fans of what I'm doing? Who can I engage? Right. You know, and then make music for them so that they champion me, and like, and I can grow and like, then like become, you know, like a little bit more of a household name that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I completely agree with you. Like in today's day and age, you just never know where these social media companies are going to go, which direction, and it may screw your business if your whole business is like on that.
Right.
So I do believe in newsletters a lot, and that's why this show has a newsletter, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys should sign up for the newsletter. We're delivering value every week.
Right.
And we do this newsletter is because it's an asset that we can hold and own forever.
Right.
Like if we have the emails, we have collected those emails and we can have those emails forever, you know.
Right.
We're not gonna lose those emails.
Right.
But like we could lose our social media accounts.
They can happen, man. And these are corporations that have their own interests.
Right.
And they are not like even like the top of the top. Like it's still above them. You know, like at the end of it, you're still a user on their platform.
Yeah, it's their business, and you're
right, and you're the product.
Yeah,
you know
pretty
that.
much the product.
You know that. Like that was that Netflix documentary, right? You saw that one. I can't remember what it was called.
It was a social something. I forget, but
but that's where they articulated that very well. That like, no, you're
the
what
product.
they're selling.
Yeah, but it makes sense. And then you know, for a beginner producer, you know, get started with the social media, you know, do the easy pickings, you know, is what I always say.
I want to hold on real quick to that. Like that's number 5, right? Like on the list. But that first one, that like, you know, get a laptop and a DAW. I think there's and this is me being a very biased creator here. I think that there's like an oversaturation of like just demos going out as songs. And like for folks like myself, like it devalues a lot of the hard work and like the real creativity, genuine creativity. Bro, I'm getting like people using the same loops because of things like Splice and Cymatics and things like that.
Right.
No knock to them, because this is America. You need a business. You need to figure that out. But I think if you're getting started right now, I think what the market will always have a space for, and you will be able to sustain faithfully, is if you create something that's truly original and yourself, and you become the source of that. You become indispensable in terms of creation. So there's like a whole, and I can go on a tirade about this, but like there's a whole side to having genuinely unique and progressive IP that is going to be popular for decades to come, that I don't think comes from focusing on social media in the very, very, very beginning. I think you should figure out if this is actually what you want to do.
Sure.
Because a lot of people, like they'll get, you know, a lot of equipment, and then they'll have to figure out how to sell it after a year because they actually see like, okay, I have to motivate myself. Like, you know, like maybe I'm not really liking this. Maybe I like the results that some of these people have gotten that I love, you know, and like I think there's realizations and questions to be had there. But I think from the beginning, I think you should really figure out how you want to make music, and like, and this is just about music production. Learn how am I going to make beats? That's really the easiest thing to do, and I say easiest with all due love and respect. But the barrier for entry to that is quite low, especially if you have a laptop and you know how to type and you know basic mathematics. You can program music. And I will say that I am a music programmer. Like I have familiarized myself with Logic to a point where it seems like art. And that's really what this is that like you took that time. Now, what I did lack in is the social media side. And that's something which I do appreciate. So these things that are on a list, I'd say, yeah, it's not necessarily first thing, second thing, third thing. These can all be done somewhat simultaneously. Like these should be things that you should be able to handle consistently, right? Like, you know, having passion for what you have, and then learning how to finance that, and then
following
what
a
was
routine.
the fourth thing? Yes, routine. making sure that you can do this.
Yeah.
And you do this repeatedly, rinse, repeat, like a lot. And then you have the social media thing,
That
which
makes
is
sense.
all going simultaneously.
That makes sense.
So I think I'll vote for that. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you got to do now, you know, like to be a successful, viable producer and somebody who's in the game. But that's just as is life, you know. Yeah,
no, I think that's really beautiful what you just said, and you know, it sums up what can make a producer successful, you know, because I was you know, listening to Murda Beats recently, like in a few interviews that he's done, and Murda, you know, he's from he's from a small town in Canada.
Yep.
Like I think he said his town has just 34,000 people. That's a very small town.
Very small town.
Okay.
Yeah.
In this small town, no one believed that somebody like him could do anything. Like he's a white boy from a tiny town, you know, and he has aspirations to make beats.
Right.
No way. But anyways, when he first started, he first started by buying a drum pad, like a drum thing.
The MPC.
Yeah. And it's like a little. It wasn't an MPC. It was like a drum set, but like an electronic version.
Oh,
you know, one of those.
Oh, so he's actually playing with the sticks. Yeah.
That
it's like the 808 drum kits.
Right.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
He started with that. Then he realized your point number one, your advice number one, which is like get a computer in DAW. He didn't have that. He realized that I need that. I don't need this drum set.
Right.
And so he traded that drum set to somebody else and got a computer.
There you go.
And with the DAW, he started with Fruity Loops.
Yep.
And he started making beats. Yeah. And what he did is that, he figured out he had passion for it. That was point number 2.
There you go.
And then point number 3 was
finances.
Finance it. Okay, so he didn't have the finances for anything. He was just 17.
Yeah, just a kid.
So when he started, he didn't know how to do this, but he jumped to routine. Point number 4. He was making beats every day.
Right.
He was saying that he just made beats, like random beats, even if they were crap. He just made them. And then, that gave him more passion, he was just feeding that passion constantly.
Right.
And then he did the number 5, which is the social media. He got an Instagram account. Everybody told him that, listen, man, your beats suck. Don't even go on Instagram,
Holy shit.
He was like, nah, F that. F you.
Right.
I'm going to do it. Because he was 17.
Right.
So he did it. And he started DMing a bunch of people.
Okay.
Just constantly just DMing. Obviously, most of it got ignored and all that. You know what I mean? But he ran into Chief Keef's team when Chief Keef wasn't Chief Keef. He ran into that team in Chicago, and he's in Canada. And he was like, damn, these guys have something. And I really like these, like making beats for these people. They were just all underground.
Right.
And then he convinced and then there was this next point that you mentioned is like, go out there.
Yeah.
So he convinced his mom to let him go to Chicago. And they made just like tons of beats and songs just in like a super one,
So he got started with Chief Keef.
Yeah. And then what it is that like his story kind of changes. He had some quick wins, early wins, because he started with Chief Keef. He had a few good placements right from the, few months into it, like let's say like within the first year.
Right.
He had some good placements. But the caveat is that, life, universe always has a plan. Universe will always test you, The universe wants to make sure if you're worthy for some of these goals and dreams that you have. You have to prove yourself. So it doesn't mean that he started with Chief Keef. All right, we're good now. No. What happened is that after that, there was a period of like 3 to 4 years where things, were really, really rough from his personal life. Like his dad passed away. He was having issues getting placements. There was a lot of things that was like ups and downs. So he was tested. But, what regular, like most people, average people will get tested is that at the beginning there will be no placements. And that's the truth, right?
Yeah,
for most producers, there's no placements. But if you do get placements, you'll be tested in other ways. That's the truth,
Right.
So anyways, with Chief Keef, he did the whole thing, with Murda Beats, he did the whole thing with Chief Keef. And then he, after some time, he found the Migos. But it was before Versace, before the Migos got famous. But he really loved the flow because their flow was
Sure.
So he was like, oh, I can make beats to this flow. This is really different,
Right.
But through all this process, he was finding his brand, his voice. Like you said, like get good at your IP, your brand.
Yeah.
And he was getting better at that. He was becoming more Murda beats and less generic type beats.
Right.
Because he was doing a lot of type beats. Even though he had placements, he didn't have money. He said, like I had placements with a few artists, but I wasn't getting the money yet,
at that point. Yeah. You're not seeing the fruits of your labor just yet. So you are working with people.
Yeah.
And that's not to be discounted on your journey.
No.
So a lot of people do focus on the payment part, and I understand I said finances, but that's me looking back.
Right.
Like that's me thinking about it now.
Right.
But like in that moment in time, it's really important that you stay in that passion, that flow state, where I'm just working with people, and the people that I'm working with are finding me valuable.
Yes.
And like, you are proving your value, but beyond what they're expected of you right now. So like, I think, yeah, you're right. Like, you'll be tested always in any which way that you go.
Right.
But it's just kind of like how you respond to them and how you rise to the challenge.
Exactly. Yeah, so he did that, man, and he worked with Migos for some time, and Migos just loved his beats, flew him out to Atlanta for some time, and they worked on a lot of things. This is before Versace, so Migos wasn't famous yet.
Sure.
But through this process, gotta rewind a little bit to tell this Migos story, is because like he was trying to get close with Migos from the beginning when he found him like on Instagram, I guess.
Sure.
But he couldn't reach him because, you know, Migos don't reply to things. Right. Even before Migos is Migos. Anyways.
No, they have their circle.
Yeah. So he ran into somebody in his circle.
Ah.
And that guy, he sent like beat packs like all the time.
Right.
That guy played beats for Migos. Migos loved it. Flew him out to Atlanta.
Right.
You know, and so then what happened is like, you know, Versace became famous, and then Migos dropped their first album, and they used one of the beats, I think one or two, a few beats, maybe very less. Okay. I don't remember the actual number. Might be 1 to 3 beats used in that album, and then, you know, the rest is history. You know, Migos brought you know, a Murda to their tours and everything. You know, I've seen those clips, and he looks like a child. Yeah, like this is a child with the Migos. You know,
it's like the first time like he's getting his like experience.
Yeah, so he learned a lot from there. But even though he was with these people, he was still trying to like sell type beats because he needed finances, you know. Like he's a kid from a small town. Like, you
gotta sustain yourself. Like, and you can't expect like the artists and the camps and these managements and stuff to pay out, like, unless you're like really a part of the team and you've been included for some time, and it's become a process. So in the early stages when you're getting out there, you got to do like multiple things at the same time. And a
lot of the royalty checks don't come until like the end of the quarter,
much later.
That's like, you know, just 4 times a year maybe you're getting your royalty checks. That's tough. Like,
from major label, major label
it's
placements. It is. So you have to like, and I think that's always been the case. It's just like it changes how you do this, but you have to do multiple things. But if you can do that utilizing your passion, like, I think that's really the key. Like, and that's what offers you sustainability. Sure. And so that you can, like, you know, grow in state, like, you know, in phases. But I think it is really important to note that, like, if it wasn't for that Instagram, like, DMing phase, you know, where you really put yourself out there, and whether or not you were ready for it or not, you just kind of did that. I think that's really important. I think that's what opened those opportunities, right? Like Chief Keef's camp was online as well. And like, the more that you get out there, the more that you increase those chances. And some of us didn't do that as much, you know. Some of us got way like lost in the process, and we fell deeply in love just with, you know, just being the creator at that point. And I want to just real quick like backtrack about the loops and stuff. Like, I think I want to say that I got started with loops, and like, these were stock loops on Sony Acid and stuff, so I don't want to shit on loops like that. And I don't mean to come at it with any kind of disrespect, but I think my point stands in terms of wanting to be unique, wanting to be different. I think that's why Murda is Murda, because that's a sound, that is a certain approach, and his beats do sound a certain way. So when I heard Motorsport, I think it was, and then he's got a couple of those beats on I was listening to Huncho Jack, you know, the one that that's Quavo and Travis, but there are a lot of Murda beats on there. And like, you can hear it, you can hear the texture, you can hear the kits that he decides to use, you know, the percussion and all of that. And that's him developing an ear for himself, for his own preference, and then being able to reach into his tool bag, you know, with like almost a reflex to know where these things can go and produce amazing results. And I think that came with a little bit of like, he had a great balance, I would say, that like he did everything simultaneously. So yeah, that's really important, and that's a great story to
and I think reference. You know, it applies across all professions too, like even as an entrepreneur building a brand, or a musician, an artist, you know, building their careers. It's like it applies. Like if you're building a brand from the bottom up, like every artist's career is like a brand, you know, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you're building a brand from the zero, you know, you got to get out there. You got to show your face. You got to go to the meetups. You got to connect with collaborators. You got to find partners to work with. You got to create teams. You know,
100%.
like all this happens through like following your passion, getting out there, and having some social media, you know, things going.
Presence,
like
yeah, so that's where people can connect to you after they meet you on the ground.
Yes.
And that was really important.
It's your business card.
Yeah, it is. But it's important to like, I think, note that there's a different kind of result when folks like see you on the ground and now they want to keep up with you in your life versus people doing soul discoveries of you online and then maybe or maybe not meeting you ever in real life. I don't know if you've really gained a fan more so than a follower. And followers are, you know, also liable to not follow after a while, or if you don't like, but maybe when people were out there and you got out there and you were ready to like put yourself on stage, people could see you and buy into you, and they'll see you through phases of your career. Like, yeah, I felt his second project, but you know, the third one was but then that fourth one, and then now the seventh one, whatever, like they have this whole like kind of
story.
Yeah, and I think it's because like they saw you in person. Mm-hmm. I think when you got out there and shook hands pre-COVID, like there was a level of results that you could see online. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man, that's very important.
That's a really good point. You know, like just going out there, getting out there early is really important. I believe in that. You know, like I'm an entrepreneur, you know, by birth, you know, but like I've always like tinkered with my entrepreneurial skills. And so what I do a lot, like for a number of years, is, you know, I read a lot of books, right? You know this about me. I read a lot of books. And then I also take a lot of courses. I go to a lot of seminars just to like see if I can catch something new. Is there
always a student?
Yeah, always a student, always learning. You
That's
know?
Awesome.
One of the recent conferences, like you know, in-person course type of thing that I went to was a conference by Brendan Burchard. He's a YouTuber and he's got this incredible business, and he's also a tech entrepreneur and things like that. Anyways, the thing that I learned from him was that he was urging other YouTubers and content creators to like, yeah, you know, you're at home recording these videos and putting it out there, and, you know, building your brand, but go out there as early as possible. Even if you have like 5 fans or whatever, or like 5 people who know you for this video thing that you're doing, take those 5 people and go meet at a coffee shop. Like as early as possible. Let's say like end of month 1. Go.
Nice.
That's what he you know, suggested for creators. And I completely believe that. It's because, and that applies to musicians and artists and
100%.
entrepreneurs too, because start your music career, go out there, do the meetups, because like meetup.com, for example, meetup.com, or Facebook, you know, obviously there are groups, but meetup.com has like so many meetups just cater to different niches.
That's crazy. I've never heard of meetup.com.
I go to meetups a lot, like on meetup.com. Like there are entrepreneurial meetups, there are meetups for small business owners, there are meetups for artists. There are even meetups for people who are single looking to mingle, you know, there are meetups for that. All sorts of things, like
holy shit.
Even for corporate folks who have corporate jobs, there are meetups for like 5 o'clock, you know, after 5, where, you know, people meet up to drink and you know,
to hang
get
out.
To know each other, you know. It's all on meetup.com, so go to meetup.
Meetup.com.
Figure that out. And you know, nowadays there's more, obviously there's Facebook groups and all that, but I think this is a great piece of advice.
But no, I don't think it's pushed enough to to like go outside for real. I know it's been difficult, like since COVID, like, and you're wondering always, or you might be reserved that way, or you got conditioned in that year that we were like locked out or locked in. But I still think it's okay. I think as long as you wash your hands when you get back home, like, feel free to like shake hands, meet people, and say hello, and get back to really like sharing who you are, you know, and like allowing folks to
connect with you as a person.
Like that energy should be able to mesh, and I think that's a very quick indicator if you're going to be able to work with somebody, or if you're going to be able to build with somebody, that like you were together and I don't know, you're cracking jokes and getting shit done, and it's like, oh, this doesn't even feel like work. Yeah, that's the point. Like that, like you are getting so lost in like the process about it, and it's because you have chemistry or you figured out a way to like create a small ecosystem where you can create and rinse, repeat. You know? That's really important.
You know, you're right. That relationship aspect is so important in anything, like in life, in business. Like your network is your net worth. You know, and that applies to musicians, everyone. That applies to everyone. Your network is your net worth. And, you know, I've always given this advice to people, and I follow this advice myself, is the best way to build relationships is to work with that person on a project, on something. Instead, you know, a lot of people like DM and a lot of people send LinkedIn messages. Yeah. Instead of sending a ton of LinkedIn messages about just, hey, hi, I just wanted to pitch you this idea, or like, hey, hi, can you listen to this song? I like messages that are more like, hey, I've got this thing and you've got that thing. Can I help you with this? Or can I help you with XYZ? Can I add value to it?
Yeah, is there a way we can help each other?
Yeah, is there a way we can work on something together?
Right.
Because I've noticed over time that like my relationships with people become so strong when I work with them on something. Like when I have a project that I'm working 100%. On, like we become closer through this, and then we learn so much. And that took care of like 10 DMs that I would have had to make with this person.
Cold pitches.
Yeah, cold pitches. Like instead of all that, let's try to work on a project together that'll help both parties. Yeah. And then we'll build a beautiful relationship through this.
That's something you and I have in common there, which is like I have created lifelong friends through the work that we have done together. Right. And that I appreciate. Same. But then some people, like, you know, they need those meetups after 5 where we're not talking about work. We're not working on anything. True. And you actually just socialize and you maybe like develop a relationship that way. And then down the ways, just again,
help them out with something.
Yeah, serendipity. Yeah. Somebody has an opportunity for you to add value somewhere, and then they reciprocate. And that's how I think a lot of genuine, sustainable businesses and ventures, like, they're created. Is there's this real, like, you know, honest, like,
human connection.
Yeah, exactly. And people don't lose that humanity to what we're doing here.
Right. And
yeah, you're right. Like, it is annoying when people go straight to the business. But I think there is when you're beginning, you know, and you're really just trying to get out there like Murda did, like, it's like you are introducing yourself in a certain capacity, you know, but there's an art to that, right? There's a way to not have it be so transactional, but really try to, you know, invest in this person because and you want value. This person to invest in you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the secret, adding value to people, other people, just through whatever. If you're making beats, agreed. You're adding value. You got to see that if you're making beats and if you're a producer, you're serving artists. Yeah. That's what you're doing. If you can change your mindset from, you know, is this the dopest beat? Is this blah, blah, blah? Do I look good putting this beat out on Instagram? Instead of thinking that, will this beat serve artists? Will artists get something out of this? Will they be able to make their song?
And this is a very hip hop conversation in that beats to artists, because there are some instrumental, you know, like artists out there that like, and they have great, huge followings online. They pay their bills just off of their Apple Music, Spotify earnings. And like even TuneCore, I think Russ showed like what you can do building a real like fan base that way. But yes, in this capacity, yes, I was in hip hop. I really love that art form, that genre. So yes, when you are producing beats, you want somebody to vocalize on it. Whether it's a singer or it's a rapper, whatever, you do want that human component. And
and then for instrumentalists, like if you are a producer, you know, like the instrumentalists are your collaborators, you know.
Sure.
If you find a dope violinist that can change your beat completely,
totally,
you know, like collaborate with that person,
100%,
you know, and like add value to that violinist. That violinist may be practicing with classic music or like different genre of music,
or just in the thin air.
They're more used to different things,
right.
But then you come in and add value with this different genre of yours. Boom, we're creating something new here.
Yeah, and I think that re-inspires both parties.
Yes.
And that pushes you even further along, and like the you don't think about all this stuff, right? It's just what kind of happens when you look back. And you're like, oh, at that point this happened because that happened.
Right.
But in that moment in time, you're very much present. You're very much trying to be the best version of you that you can be. Exactly. And you're trying to add value, like give people the maximum that you can give them so that they see that, like, okay, if I go back or if we have this next opportunity, like,
Right.
you know, Saheer's ready to rise to that.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it.
And you build that faith.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know, like we've been talking about how to help, like, you know, beginner producers who are kind of getting started.
Sure.
But how about producers who've been doing it for a while? Like, you know, if there's a producer, you know, somebody in the audience who's watching this video who's like done it for like 7 years and he's already got this social media thing going, and you know, but he needs something else. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, so like, yeah, there is a significant change that I think happens after you do anything for a sustained amount of time.
Sure.
And you do what we've been talking about, getting out there, you know, in one capacity or another. You know, you take all of that in. If you do that for a sustained amount of time, I think there's these 3 things that you should have to sustain for your life, essentially, which is the studio, which is where you're gonna create. That should be some place that you can access, and you can get there anytime that you want, or you have free time. Right. Whatever it is, like, you should be able to access that with minimal, you know, what do you call it?
Friction.
Yeah, friction, or any kind of resistance. Like, there shouldn't be a key, or like even if there is like a price attached to it, like, make sure that it's feasible, all that kind of stuff, you know. But I would advise that you have something in your home, you know, somewhere where you're comfortable, an
environment that you can control, like, completely.
With this creative stuff, yes. I think that should be, I think that is the way to go. Even after you've done this for 7, 10 years, 15, 20, anybody you ask them, like the greats, they all have spaces in their home, whether it's just to mix their music, whether it's just to listen to it or write to it, or they're more often than not full-fledged studios, you know, where they're going to put the final product out here. They have that because you want that familiarity, you want that space that's yours. And the second thing that you want is the catalog. I think a lot of folks, like, for the time that they do it, may not have enough music actually done for you to then go out into the field and you maybe get somebody to like a song or 2 of yours, but then it stops after the 7th track because you only have an EP out and maybe 3 singles. And those 3 singles are not what got that singer there in the first place. You got to also understand now the attention span is so much shorter than it ever was. So I think the Moneybagg Yo example I bring up a lot is just like, he's a mixtape after mixtape after mixtape after mixtape. I can't imagine how many producers and engineers and composers, all of them got a chance to collaborate, you know, and Moneybagg's just there rapping. Like, that's what he brings to it, his voice and his charisma. And like, now you've put out volume, you know, you have catalog. So then he gets signed to Gotti, I believe, and he has a deep catalog. So anybody that now is introduced to Moneybagg through Gotti's, you know, sign or whatever, has this whole like years to explore and to sink their teeth into.
Bro, that's right.
The catalog part.
I want to interrupt you real quick here and put in the Russ story as well. Because the way I found out about Russ was like, he was doing his weekly release thing, you know, like
right. The famous one song a week.
Single a week. Russ, you know, followed his routine. You know, Russ had his environment at home. Russ wakes up.
There you go.
He goes down to the basement. He starts recording. You know, Russ doesn't really care about what time he wakes up because sometimes it's, you know, different. But he wakes up and goes down to his studio, you know, grabs a cereal or whatever, and he starts, you know.
Awesome.
So he's got this environment where he gets to repeatedly work on his craft.
Right.
He does that, and then he set himself a goal, song a week, song a week, song a week. Majority of the world didn't listen to all of those songs.
Sure.
But like someone like me who heard it when I heard one of his songs, I don't remember which one it was because there's so many good ones.
He has a very deep catalog.
Yeah. But when I found that catalog, when I found that one song that I really liked, and I was like, who is this guy? Clicked on him on Spotify, and I was like, what am I missing out here? This is nuts. A song. There's a song every week, and there's so many singles. And I was just like flabbergasted, you know, at that time. I remember it, and it felt like, wow, I'm missing out. And I, you know, I'm in the music business, and you know,
Yeah, you're like,
I was like, bro, what the heck? I'm behind on this.
Yeah.
You know, there's a FOMO feeling.
and you want that from people who discover you.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
want that.
You want
like, I've been sleeping.
Yeah.
Like, what rock have I been hiding under?
Right.
Like, and they have all this back catalog to explore.
Yeah.
And I think that for music lovers, for folks who love music, that's one of the biggest, like, satisfying feelings, knowing that you were late on somebody and you have so much more to explore.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Whereas, like, the ones that are day ones, you know, like, they're there with you in a different capacity. But having a catalog is huge.
Right.
And that's kind of demonstrates, like, your seriousness.
Yeah.
And, like, your actual talent.
Right.
Because anybody, and, like, I don't mean to say this lightly, but I feel like anybody can inspire themselves for, like, a song or 6. But when you get past that and you start to, like, either feel more inspired and you just keep going at it, which is what happened to me, or 2, you're like, yeah, you know. And I think it's important to, like, build that catalog space so that, like, people can see, like, he or she is, like, really for this, and
exactly.
he or she is gonna keep going.
Right. And dude, and this is great advice for any type of creator out there. You know, like, for YouTubers, for people who make podcasts, for us. You know, it is very important. That's why we have a target of, like, doing 100 episodes together,
right,
before we even invite anybody for an interview.
Right.
You know,
right,
obviously we are going to go to that stage, but we're doing 100 first. It's because we want this catalog.
No,
you know?
we need that.
Yeah, it's fun for us. You know, like, creating this catalog is beautiful for us.
You know?
Just
coming to talk and, like, really chop it up, like, genuinely about things that we are passionate about.
Right.
Come on, how can you? And it doesn't take work.
No,
you know,
and it's the same thing for YouTubers. You know, who create, like, you know, those 5-10 minute content pieces and whatnot. You guys, you know, who are doing YouTube, like, you just gotta keep putting out content every week, or every other week, whatever routine works for you. But you gotta keep going. You know, and yesterday I got this nice little tidbit, nice little fact from a podcast I was listening to, and they said, like, 98% of podcasters stop after shooting episode 3. 98%. Okay?
Wow.
So 2% last after episode 3. All right. Wow. From that 2%, 97% quit after episode 20. They did 20 episodes, and now they're like, this is not for me, or they get bored, or something happens.
Sure.
They leave.
Wow.
So only 3% is alive after episode
of that 2%.
20. Yeah, 3% of the 2%.
Oh my god!
And so if anybody
Yeah.
goes past episode 20, any podcast goes past episode 20, they're in the top 1%.
You're in rarefied air already.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And so I'm just like, I'm listening to that stat and I'm like, dude, it's so easy to do good work. Like,
Yeah.
if you just genuinely love it.
That's a big asterisk, though.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, they don't really genuinely love it, and they don't like hearing that sometimes.
That's
Maybe they
interesting.
just didn't ask that question.
That's interesting.
I never had time to answer that question for myself because I was so lost in the creation of it. And I think that's a giant indicator that you are where you're supposed to be, where this universe has, made your purpose. Is like, you don't even notice where the time goes. You don't notice that, holy shit, it's been what? So I started really 2003 and it's 2023 right now. So yeah, it's actually been 20 years. And I'm looking back like, damn, I've been making music for 20 years. And now I don't, like, my accolades aren't like of a Drake or of a Kendrick, but I still feel like there's not been a shadow of a doubt in my mind that, like, the time that I've spent so far on this earth has been, I mean, professionally speaking, has been where I want to be and what I really love. That's an asterisk.
No, I love, I'm so proud of you for pushing for 20 years. And not just that, like, I'm so excited for you.
Yeah.
Because this 20 years is just nothing. Like, it's the tip of the iceberg, really. Like,
quick 20.
Yeah, there's another 20 ahead. Like, I'm so excited to see these next 20 years.
Likewise.
Because it's going to be so exciting.
Because, like, the skill set, the prowess, all of that, just, like, it evolves with you as you grow. And as
you're in your early 30s. That means, like, fuck, the next 20 is going to be so exciting.
No, we're young, man. And like, we have to recognize that, like, like, you as a kid, you feel like you're young. And like, you look at folks that are 30, because I'll look at 30-year-olds like, God damn, you're old. But nah, like, it doesn't, it's like, life goes by very quickly. And like, I read something about this. I can't remember, but like, yeah, like life is now like moving so fast, you know, because like you are going through life experiences that are somewhat familiar to you. So they may go by faster. Whereas when you were a kid, things were so new, like every day might be something different. So things might drag a little bit longer. Things felt like they were going by, you know, like slower. So I like, in an effort to combat that, you know, like you try to re-inspire yourself. You try to find new things to be like, you know, like excited about and get to attack. And like, I'm really appreciative that it has like that I've been able to continuously learn. And maybe I'm also appreciative that I didn't learn everything all at once, and that I didn't like, you know, burn out or like just like cycle out of interest, because like I think the exploration part of the DAW, like the part with Logic, like, oh, this does that, oh shit, this does that, and I would watch YouTube tutorials to a minimum just to get like a sense of what they said. And I would intentionally stop the video in the middle.
Oh, and
just
then get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Just so that way I don't like...
That's awesome.
I don't take exactly what they did, but I take like the first like 10 feet of their route. And then like...
That's so important, man.
Yeah, and I think that retains a little bit of originality.
Yes.
A little bit of uniqueness to your approach. So I'm hoping that when people hear this next album that I have to offer, they can hear like a difference in sound.
Yeah.
So
that's so important, man. Getting your hands dirty is so important. It's like we can read 1,000 books, we can watch endless YouTube videos, Netflix documentaries, but if you don't get your hands dirty and do the real thing, like if you don't experience it, it's not gonna grow.
Not at all.
It's not gonna be the way you want it to be.
You're just always gonna be a critic. You're always just gonna be you're gonna be stuck looking.
You're
and
a consumer,
and just a consumer.
You gotta be a producer.
100%. Yes. Cultivate, make new, and like,
That's
wait.
beautiful.
Third thing at that list was network, but we said that.
Wait a second. So
sorry. Go ahead.
Before you get into the third thing, the first one was
studio.
Second one was
catalog.
Okay, and the third thing is
network.
Okay, so you have the studio, you have the catalog, now network, and
network
get okay. I see.
That's it. And I think after that, like if you keep those three things on a rinse repeat cycle, you keep those things consistent. You know, it's tough to keep a studio going. You know, like, you know, equipment issues, rent, or you have other obligations in life. You need the space for something, whatever. Like, I know life happens, so that's also a thing, you know. And then the catalog part, man, I can't tell you how many hard drives I've lost just of my music.
Right.
And it's like, you've lost your catalog there. But I mean, you have your experience that no one can take from you, but the catalog is gone. And unless, like, you know, there's somebody from back in the days that has these tracks when I put them out, that's all there is for it. And like, you have very little to show, kind of like when you lose hard drives. So catalog is huge.
Huge.
And then network. You know, but we talked about that like consistently. That
that makes sense.
I think that's true for beginners now more than it was before when I got started. But for folks that have done this for more than like 3, 5, 7 years, like, I think having a circle around you that you can faithfully like show music through different phases in your life is huge. And I don't mean like people as in like just your friends, because they have an opinion, but I'm talking about industry folks that are around volumes of music and actually know what it takes to cut through that fog. After you've put the proper marketing or whatever, you still need that music that's different. And like, yeah, that networking part, having people that you can constantly dish music to and that have that relationship with you. That, he's been sending me music for years, but like this last one that he sent, I think he's ready, man. What do you think? And he's saying to somebody way above your network, you know, whatever you have. And that's really important. That network side is indispensable. Collaboration.
Yeah, collaboration. What you just said right now is the word that I was gonna say.
Oh shit!
Right now, and you just said it. So this is good. Our energy is great. Collaboration is so important. I feel like that, you know, making that network and like getting to know people, and then taking it a step further and collaborating with other producers, other beat makers constantly. I feel like this is so important for people who produce beats and music and compose music, is that make that little idea that you have, you know, in my opinion, is that create that little idea that you have for a beat, put it in, you know, just like in its rough stage. And then send it out to people to collaborate with.
Right.
Send out one little beat idea to like 5 people.
Yeah.
Then you're making 5 little pitches of a beat, and you might get 5 different variations to that same beat.
Yeah.
Now, what are you gonna do with that 5 variations to that same beat? Send it to artists. The artist gets 5 types of the same style.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, holy shit, one of these is
Oh,
nice.
that's real.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a tactic. That's real.
That's a tactic.
Oh, I love
That's
that.
where you use 1 hour to put a beat down and multiply that effect of that 1
Son
hour.
of a gun. Yep.
That can help like immensely.
Immensely.
Yep. And there are people I know that who make beats, like 60 beats a week. And this is how they do it. They just jot down ideas, send it to collaborators. One of those jotted down ideas goes on their BeatStars or on their website.
Right.
But the 5 other ideas are gone to different collaborators. They come back with it, put it up, and then DM those to like
That's
10
awesome.
artists.
That's great. That's a hustle.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's how you do it. Like
That's how you do it.
maximize that 1 hour effort.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm
I
gonna
love
use that.
one.
What?
Yeah, and this advice applies to anyone in the game, like in the music game, obviously. Collaborations are awesome. For entrepreneurs too, like if you can work with other entrepreneurs on their ideas and your ideas on, just like to even like collaborate on like brainstorming.
Yep.
Like it just changes things. You know what I mean?
It
Even
does.
authors like have so many great ideas, but it's hard to test those ideas, so like why don't you just go and connect with other authors and throw out your ideas to them and they'll tell you things.
But that's like, I think also a little bit might be romanticizing, because when we're creators around, like there is a level of like insecurity.
Right.
So I have in my past met folks that weren't so keen on working with me, and they wouldn't give me a reason why. I've been, also didn't work with people that actually told me that I don't like your music, and that I appreciated more because it's like, all right, there's a difference of taste here. There's nothing else about it, which is, like to me, I just love this so much. I never viewed it as a competitive thing. That might be to my detriment, but
no,
I think not. Like to me, like you could, like whether I'm with like 50,000 people or by myself, like I'm gonna keep doing this regardless. And like I don't think that's something that's mirrored all too often.
Right.
And so like if you are gonna approach others to like maybe give you feedback for, as much as other creators might be a good place, I think auxiliary folks that are in the industry around it. So a lot, like if we're talking about music, don't maybe reach out to producer, maybe reach out to an A&R, maybe reach out to managers or somebody that is around the creativity that will give you a little bit of an opinion, but not so far removed that they're giving you a pedestrian view. So there's like that kind of balance that you got to play, I think, with networking a little bit.
Sure.
That you do your research about who the people are that you are trying to pitch to, and genuine research, so like, you might have to look online a little bit, but then you can also ask others, folks that you might know now, like that you've been doing this, like who can I send this stuff to, who is gonna maybe give me constructive feedback, even if it's this ain't it yet, or this isn't smacking enough, or whatever, like you just want people to give you some kind of feedback. I think that's one of the more stifling things that a lot of creatives don't talk about, is that the feeling that you get when you put something out and nothing comes back. That like just radio silence, like not even a hate, like not even a boo, you suck, like it's just nothing. Like that is very hard, because like at that point, if you are doing this for your livelihood, and like it's like you have no feedback, you have no like real like bearing. So yeah, man, I think that's something to mention about networking.
I think one thing that producers and artists and musicians and people in this creative place can learn from entrepreneurs is that a lot of entrepreneurs have mastermind groups. A mastermind group is Think and Grow Rich. This book.
What is that? Okay.
So this book that was like super famous in the 50s, and it's still today. It has some of the greatest advice for
from the 50s.
Yeah,
Okay.
for really making proper business and making being successful financially and creating wealth in life. Think and grow rich. So
Think and grow rich. Okay, look it up.
One of the pieces of advice in that book was create a mastermind group, and people to this day have masterminds. Like online, if you search, there's gonna be tons of masterminds you can join and be part of. But one key piece of mastermind groups is that it's a group of people that you trust, that you like, that are similar in the industry that you are in.
Yep.
It's like, let's say 4 or 5 people, just a few people.
Yep.
And so you can just meet every week, every month, something like that. And you can shoot ideas to talk about things and, about life stuff, about your work, about your craft, or, relationship,
whatever,
anything.
Anything.
Yeah. But it's a
mastermind
good thing.
group.
Yeah, mastermind group.
Okay.
Entrepreneurs do this all the time. And they're masterminds that are cost money to join. You're in a mastermind with top CEOs. Those are the expensive ones.
But yeah,
you know what I mean?
Because what they're gonna offer you is.
But what will happen is that you learn faster.
Yeah.
Because you shorten the time that it takes for your trial and error, because you're in front of somebody who's been through that,
who's done the trial and error,
and you're just there, faster. So one of the things that I like to tell, new producers is hey, why don't you go and intern with a producer, somebody who's already doing something in the game.
Yeah.
Why don't you go intern with them for a season, in your life, few months of your life. If somebody came to you, with
100%
to be an intern, you would love it, because
love it.
You've been doing this for 20 years. There's a bunch of things that you may not want to do anymore. So tell him to do those things, and then you get to focus on your craft.
That is a little more.
And then that kid will get to see you doing your craft, and he would learn so much in a short time.
Hands on. Mm-hmm. And that's important that you do put yourself in those positions.
Right.
Where let me be of service to this person for the experience. Mm-hmm. And to see what it actually takes. More often than not, if I was to have an intern, I just love sharing information.
Yeah.
And if I'm very passionate about something and I have the information on it, it's all over my face,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something I can't stop talking about. So when it comes to music production, and if there's somebody interested in learning what I'm doing, oh man, I always say the knowledge is free. The information is free. What you do with that is on you. That's a strong belief that I have, and I'll never put a barrier between my information. So I'm just trying to the easiest way that we can to add value.
That's awesome,
and that makes me happy genuinely as a person. I love sharing information.
Yeah,
and seeing other folks get excited about that. And it's similar to when you give somebody superior product, or you give a customer superior product, and the look that they get on their face, or they hit you back with an email just going crazy, loving it, and there's that satisfaction you get that you improve this person's day, just in whatever aspect.
Yeah, it's a human thing. We like to help others. Humans generally want to help others.
They do.
Unless you're a dick, but don't be an asshole.
That's
that's
an
what I like
asterisk
to say.
too. That's a very great motto.
Yeah,
that's something we
don't
should.
Don't be
also...
a fucking asshole. And now the thing is, like you said, we want to teach people, we want to mentor people.
Yeah.
And for you guys in the audience, if you're in Southern California and watching this and you want to help us, if you want to be an intern for this podcast or for his engineering jobs, if you want to be an intern, email us info@unfiltered.net.
100%.
I'll just leave that here.
Yeah.
We'll come back to this.
100%.
But yeah, that's dope. I like that.
Yeah, man. I love sharing information. I think you do as well. I think you share that similar genuine collaborative spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So this week, in preparation for this episode, I was scouring through the internet to find out how I can add value to the audience who's actually, producers and engineers and all that.
All right. So this is the music section.
Yeah. And,
audio production. Go ahead.
Yeah, I really, dug deep, and I found, some key things that, a lot of people have questions on the internet. So I went on Reddit, and I found some real questions that I wanted to ask you.
Dope.
These are real questions on Reddit. So these are people who are asking these questions.
Okay.
So Earth Ninja on Reddit was asking, what are your current favorite VSTs
Okay.
And why?
Okay, VST. So now again, I'm a Logic baby, I'm gonna say, or a GarageBand user. So for me, I was on the stock instruments for a long time.
Okay.
So anything that DAW already had in it, I was using, and I was trying to explore and maximize. So at that time, there were only like 4 kits, drum kits, you know, like hip hop kit, jazz kit, pop kit, rock kit, and I think a brush kit or studio kit, whatever that was. But there were those 5, and then there was, you know, whatever stock little synths they had. That's all on GarageBand. But then when you graduate to Logic, they have their synthesizers. So there's this one called the EXS24. That first came out on Logic. That was very unique, and then it's now at its space called the sampler. It's really dope. It's just a Logic stock sampler. But then, like, more on the name side, like there's a synth called Alchemy that Logic acquired in 2015.
Okay.
Alchemy is powerful, and it has all kinds of tones, and you very you know, you can get into the nitty gritty of synthesis. It's awesome. And then there's Contact. Contact has a lot more natural sounding stuff, you know, like bigger strings. You know, I have like an Indian, like Middle Eastern kit that's on there that offers me those sorts of textures. So I like that one a lot. And lastly, it's Battery now. Like, so there's this, it's called Battery for percussion and for beats. And I think those sounds are extra fire on that. So yeah, those have been my go-to VSTs, because a lot of folks do use third-party VSTs like Omnisphere or man, I can't even remember some of these names, but they just, I don't know, there's so much already, you know, like in all of these DAWs, like they have stock sounds. So unless you're like myself, who have like put like 10 plus years into exploring just that one program, like you don't really need, you know, too many third-party plugins to like really like do your thing and get stellar results. Now on the mixing, sound engineering side, that's a different thing.
Tell me about that.
Those plugins. So those plugins are different. That just treats the sound. So that your, you know, EQ compressors, those sorts of tools. Yeah, like there are third-party plugins that have some proprietary algorithm or whatever that's creating this color, that's creating this result, that yeah, like it might behoove you to save up to pay for it. So like one of them is like the SSL compressor. So you know about the SSL board? So it's solid state logic. That's what Dr. Dre uses, swears by it. That's what like a lot of huge pop hits have been mixed off of this particular board, SSL. So there's like this virtual plugin for it, which is the master compressor. So all of your signal, whatever you have in your tracks, gets routed to this stereo bus compressor.
I see.
And so I have that plugin. That one made quite the difference just by turning up the makeup gain up to like 5-6. You were like, oh shit. And it's not peaking, you know, and like a lot of the times the stock plugins, they can't handle a lot, so they'll peak easily. Then I got Isotope. There's the Isotope Vintage Limiter. That's my go-to right now, and that's something that offers a lot of punch and a lot of like warmth without, again, peaking. There's this one called the Oxford Inflator. Again, like it looks very basic, but the results, just by putting that on your channel strip, it just, the stuff jumps out, you know, like the good stuff. If you've mixed it right, you know, like the good stuff. So a lot of the stereo bus plugins I've been really into. So yeah, to me, like I think third-party plugins, when it comes to like the sound engineering side, that might be worth your buck if you do your research. Shout out to 41X, man. He put me onto Magma Tubes by Waves, and this is saturation. So like, you know, it's like tasteful distortion. And there's top end saturation and low end saturation, and that's what I realized I was missing. I was like, oh shit, this is how you get that lift. Like this is how you get that punch, and like the sound leaps out of the speakers, you know, versus it just playing. Right. So these little things really do make the difference, in my opinion. I just think it all depends on about the music that you're using, that you're creating.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a lot of value. I love that.
Yeah.
And you know, that's why I'm asking you these questions, because like, you know, you have 20 years of experience tinkering with these things.
Right.
At the same time, you also went to school to SAE.
Yes.
In San Francisco for this.
Right.
So, you know, who better to ask other than that?
Thank you. Yeah.
You know, and then it helps the new producers, because like it shortens their time that they have to spend now to learn about this. you've mentioned some great VSTs. They can go Google it.
Sure.
They can go figure it out on YouTube.
Sure.
But you gave them the
Yeah,
little
yeah.
seeds.
That's like that first taste, man. As we go along here, I'll keep geeking out
Sure.
about this. Yeah, but
Yeah.
hell yeah, like we didn't even get into like the reverbs and things like that. But that's like the nitty gritty, you know, of actual sound production. And I think a lot of it does take, like you said, like research, listening to people's opinions.
Awesome. Yeah. And then, you know, since you mentioned Dr. Dre, I have another question that I found, on Reddit.
Yeah.
Was how does Dr. Dre's 2001, Chronic 2001, sound so crispy?
That is quality audio engineering. That's like the simple answer. And it's a loaded answer just because the level of awareness you have to achieve sonic excellence, I think is rare. So I put Rahman in the same category in terms
Like A.R.
of
Rahman?
Yeah, A.R. Rahman. Like I put him in that category of sonic excellence. So he's somebody, Dr. Dre specifically is somebody who is a producer, meaning he's the creative, but he is also the engineer, meaning he is scientifically trained to get the best out of recordings.
Right.
And he spent his whole life in the studio, and he's mentioned many a times that he dictates mic placement and live instrumentation. So the crispiness that person might be referring to, in my opinion, is the actual air in the room. I think a lot of the digital stuff that we have that in the box stuff lacks air, unless it's like a live sample that's been used, you know. So I'm talking more so about these electronic drum kits like 808s and like like these trunk kits and things like that that like have a very electronic sound. They're synthesized in the box, you know. Whereas Dr. Dre has been very adamant, I believe, on using live instrumentation. So that air, when you get to EQ and compress and process live recordings that are recorded with, you know, dedication and love, I think you maintain or sonic excellence through decades, because that's something that very few people really put their time into and like have like a, you know, an appreciation for, which is why I really love Kendrick or TDE in general.
Right.
Because they, like, you know, I'm biased towards the whole music thing, but they care, you know, and like Ali cares, like they want to get like the best sounding, best quality, make sure everything is top notch, tightened, and like I don't know, I feel like that's what makes people special. That's what makes anybody stand the test of time. So I think that's what I would attribute Dr. Dre's crispiness to, is like the really like knowing how to mix the air in the room. For sure. With whatever instruments you have.
Very
creates a very like warm, bright, fuzzy, you know, final product. And also the SSL is known for that. So like real quick about hardware, it's meant to be overloaded like that. So like when I was at SAE, I remember that we were recording the drum kit for one of these classes, and our instructor told us that like you might see the overload sign, like the red blink on, you know, every now and then. It's okay if it blinks on and off. It shouldn't lean up against, you know. So like those things create this sound, you know, those things make all the difference. So like, yeah, unfortunately, if you don't have that board, like there's some things that you're not really going to be able to achieve, in my opinion. You can get damn close, I think, in the box. I think very close. Like I think 0.05% of people might be able to tell. I can't even tell most of the time. So it's like, I think that, but I do think that there's this crispiness that they're talking about, the warmth, the impact that I think does come from analog gear and like, you know, being knowledgeable about audio engineering.
Nice. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. The next question that I have from Reddit is exactly how much can a professional producer improve your recordings? So this person wrote that he's has anyone hired a pro producer and been completely blown away by the results? Like he or she records in the bedroom, and then, you know, kind of like a rough mix, and then is wondering if they should send it to like a professional producer to get the final mix.
I think it's important to try always, you know, like, I mean, maybe even a professional producer, but like somebody who you might like know personally, or like might have a little bit of knowledge about, like, make sure that they're coming with some kind of knowledge. Excuse me, but I think I think professional producers can make all the difference in the world. And I'm talking producer as in somebody who gets the job done. That means these people know audio engineers, they know session musicians, they know recording engineers, mix engineers, whatever. Like, they know these people, they know how to assemble people. I think if somebody like has recordings at home and they want to see how they come out, if they should look for a professional mix engineer. Not necessarily a producer, because a producer will charge a fee to find somebody more often than not, instead of doing the work themselves. So those things are, the dynamics are different when you talk to a producer. But if you talk to a mix engineer, you have some home recordings, it's great. It's like, it offers a fresh ear. It's a perspective that you might not have, but also it's important to note that, and Dr. Dre said this too, you can't polish a turd. So like, it's important that, like, even if they're bedroom recordings, you can get stellar bedroom recordings. It's not at all like a handicap, in my opinion.
Sure.
But I do think that you have to be, like, aware that, like, I'm not clipping, I'm not going in too hot. Like, I understand what it means to keep the meters in the green, you know,
right,
like comfortably in the green throughout my performance, and being dedicated to that side. If you do that bare minimum in terms of recording, and you send this off to a professional mix engineer who has maybe some experience, and you know this, I think it's a world of a difference, and I think it's necessary. Absolutely.
I believe, like, you should work, it comes back to our point about collaborating. I believe that you should collaborate, which means send it to a mix engineer. And I believe that, like, experts are experts because they've spent so much time in that space. So you're better off sending it to an expert.
If you have the budget for it, if you can pay them for their time and for their, their knowledge and the decades that it took them to get to where they are, then they can be invaluable. But it's also worth noting that you can find folks that are maybe early on but have the interest, they have the passion for it, they want to be this, and they might be 2-3 years into it, like, I just got started mixing, but I love it, it's like what I want to do, man. I'll do your project for, I don't know, a quarter of the price, or more often than not, they'll do it for free. And, like, because they want to get better, and they might mess up your song a little bit, but that's kind of the give and take you get there. But I think it is important to send it to another set of ears.
I believe that 100%. Dude, that's like such a good point. Like, sending it to other ears, because you get used to your
you have a bias. 100%.
You have a bias. If you send it to others, you grow from there.
100%.
And you have a better product at the end.
I have my my experience with that, and so, like, I have my bias when it comes to that. But I do wholeheartedly believe that, like, I, as a mix engineer, could make your music better because I have, like, dedicated my time and my energy to, like, perfecting sound. And that's its own craft.
It's like you spent all your time perfecting that. And so, like, if a vocalist is singing in the bedroom or rapping or whatever, they can focus on their craft. You know, they got to become better at vocalizing their music as well.
So, and, like, getting better lyrics out. And not worry about, oh my God, I got to EQ and compress this.
That's tough.
100%.
I love that. Man, these are such great points. I love this episode because I feel like we have truly added value to producers and sound engineers. We've had some great advice for beginners. We've had some great advice for people who are in their line of work already for a few years.
Sure.
And we've answered a number of questions that, like, even I got a lot of insight from this,
I'm glad.
This is really cool, man. Thanks for taking the time to do this. And, for the audience, guys, like, we're going to do this every few episodes. We're going to try to focus in on the producers and the sound engineers. Because, like, I feel like they don't get all the love that they deserve.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you. I mean? Thank you.
Yeah, because we're always, like, going crazy for the artists and, following the artists on Spotify. But nobody goes into the song and clicks
the liner notes.
Credits.
The credits.
See, like, who's written what and produced. But I want that to become more of a reality for
Appreciate
producers.
That. You shedding that light on. The teamwork that goes into this.
Exactly. So, that's awesome. So, thank you for that.
Of course, bro.
And for the audience, like, I always want to remind you, to live authentically, live unfiltered. But remember, don't be an asshole. Well, awesome, man.
All right.
Thank you so much, Saheer.
Yes, sir.
Again, another
Always.
one in the bag.
Hell yeah.
Boom.